Hi everyone, and welcome to our virtual career chats activity today. The focus of today is on nursing and healthcare. My name's Lara and I'm going to be hosting today's session alongside my colleague Avanti. So today is all about careers within nursing and healthcare, and we're joined by three speakers who've got different roles and have taken different pathways. So we are joined by Raj, Yusuf and Hannah. So volunteers, please can you give us a wave?
Hello, Laura and everyone.
Great, thank you. We look forward to hearing about your roles in a moment. So I think I'll just tell you about how the session will work if you go on to the next slide. So the volunteers are going to take it in turns, one at a time, to speak about their role for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to do some Q&A. So please do think of questions you'd like to ask them and you can put them in the chat. Or if you do want to raise your hand and unmute yourself and speak, then that's absolutely fine as well. And then if we get time at the end, we'll do a little bit of reflection. So without further ado, let's kick off with the first speaker. So we can go to the next slide, please. So Raj, over to you. Please tell us about your job.
Thank you, Lara, and greetings to everybody. My name is Raj, and I'm talking to you from a completely different country today. And this is one of the things that I love, and maybe one of you guys, or two or three, or however many are out there, would want to see the world outside of where we live. So my house is in Newcastle, and when I was at school, I wasn't in Newcastle. I was in a smaller place called Chester, which is close to Manchester or Liverpool, if any of you are football fans. Certainly Manchester United fans, boo. So that's where I was. And when I was at school, I was in a situation where, like, what do I do? Wasn't quite sure. But certainly, I think we're rolling to the slides, I think, yeah. For the first slide, I want to give you a picture of what was running through my brain and what I really didn't quite know at that time what I wanted to do and what I ended up doing. And one of the nice things in life is that you don't have to make up your mind now, right? You can make up your mind now what you want to do, maybe today, tomorrow, maybe next year. And if you're really forward thinking, maybe in a couple of years, but you don't have to set your heart on something immediately, because life has a really nice way of working itself out depending on how much energy you got, what your friends are doing, what your family's doing, what the country's doing. I mean, we've just been through a lockdown, so 1.5 years of not really normal life, right? So all different things can influence your decisions. And there's no right and there's no wrong. That's probably one of the biggest things I would like to emphasize. There's no right and no wrong, and there's no right time, and the time basically works for you. But if you look at these pictures here, look at the far left. It's a kid with what looks like chemistry objects, right? Because I loved chemistry. And look at the center picture. This is school. Without our teachers, really, we wouldn't be anything, right? So we have to value our teachers and value learning. So when we think about learning, it's at school, it's at college. Maybe you want to go and do a degree and have fun like many of us do at university. But without our teachers, it's still not fun, because without them, and teachers are not just at school, teachers are everywhere, by the way. So when you think about what I had to do to learn and pass my A-levels and GCSEs in sciences, of course, I needed the teachers that you have in front of you. But then when I went to universities, I needed another type of teacher to teach me other things about the human body, because that's what interested me, because my dad's boss gave me a picture book of little humans within a human, what was going on. That's what really interested me. And then what you can see on the right side of the screen is passion. Always have something else that you like to do other than work, because work is great. Work gives you the structure of a life, because without structure, again, what is life? We didn't like lockdown, right? There's no structure in our lives. We didn't know, can we be bothered to get up? Maybe your mum and dads were doing work from home, even they were not getting up at the regular time. So we need some sort of structure in our lives. And I loved sports. I particularly like things like cycling and rowing and things like that. But team sports are really nice, and team sports gives you that communal feeling to work together for something. Because whenever you have a job in healthcare in particular, it's a team effort. So there's no I in teamwork, right? There's literally, we work together for one goal. What you see in the top right of the screen is what I used to do. So I used to work with X-rays, and then and before working with X-rays and CT scans, maybe you've heard of that, and you now know, everyone knows about COVID. So COVID is what I'm working in now, and the plane is just refers to what I have to do now, working with all sorts of advice I have to give to governments, which is why I'm talking to you from Prague. And I go on a plane pretty much nearly every day in my job. So it's pretty exciting. But going back to that top left, I had no idea that this is the sort of job I'd be doing, talking to not Boris Johnson, no, but I'm talking to people like him in all the other countries around the world, because they need help, because they don't know what's going on with Corona, but I'm working with all of those people who do. If I could have the next slide, please. And this is the result of that. So you're seeing us on a web. So that's me doing a web meeting to a government in Saudi Arabia. That's a lieutenant colonel in Bahrain on the left side, who's in charge of coronavirus in a smaller Arabic country called Bahrain, but he's influencing all the big countries. And that's me on the right with somebody very, very senior in government in Saudi Arabia on the right. And if you could think, again, back to that kid with the chemistry lesson, who would have thought that so many years on, I'd be working with all of these very, very important and influential people, because they're here to save their people's lives and to make sure that they are in a right place. So that's what I really love. And the take-home message I say to you guys, anything that you dream of, anything that you want to do, anything is really possible. You don't have to make up your mind now, but talk to people, talk to us, seek advice from your computer, from your teachers and your friends and family. Because honestly, you really can do whatever you want. So like your sneakers say, just do it, okay? Thanks, Lara.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, definitely want to clap that. Thank you so much. Really interesting to hear about that it's okay if you don't know what you want to do, at your age, and the importance of hobbies and other things in your life as well. So thank you for emphasizing that point. I was wondering if you could tell us, so students, if you do have any questions for Raj, please do send them in the chat and we can ask them. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what a typical day might look like. I know this is difficult if you're flying a lot and traveling a lot, but what are some of the projects that you might work on, or yeah, if you could tell us a bit more about your
that's really great, Laura, that question, because every day for me is really different. You can't say that about most other people's jobs, and previously we've got another doctor who's going to talk to you, where you've got a little bit more structure, where every day has a particular set agenda, which I also used to do. So I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting emails, I'm getting instructions. There are a lot of calls to help. Can you help with this? This country needs this. And I work obviously with sales people. So we're dealing with diagnostic tests and really super great ones. And so people in government want to know about it. So I have no idea who's going to call me. Like, I put my phone on silent because I don't want to disturb anyone, but it can be someone from Saudi, it can be someone from in Prague or wherever I am, and we really don't know. And so one of the things I like, and I'm flexible enough that I'll take a phone call at 10 o'clock at night and I'll get on a plane at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's what we have to do in order to help. It's trying to help somebody. That's my job. I'm here to help somebody in a chain, and we're all in a chain of chaos in a way, and we're trying to solve everyone's problems. And that you find in teamwork. We're there to solve one big problem, or maybe 100 problems at once. And I saw the question, great question, what's my favorite thing I love? I love people, everybody. Some people, doesn't matter from where you come from, what language. I lived in Germany for 5 years. I didn't say Newcastle, and I just love languages. I love seeing other people's cultures. I love their food, so I get to try every nationality's food. Unfortunately, you do put on a little bit of weight when that happens, but yeah, I just love the variety. Yeah, and every day is a challenge, and without a challenge, it's not interesting. And to part maybe just on this question, nothing in life worth doing is easy. if something's easy, it's really not worth it, believe me. So try to find the most difficult things you can and be up for the challenge, yeah, because it's really rewarding.
Oh, Raj, thank you so much, and thanks for answering that question.
You're welcome, Helen.
So I think we're going to move on to our next volunteer now, but Raj, we might come back to you at the end if we have time. So over to you, Hannah. Please tell us about your job. Oh, Hannah, I think you're on mute.
Is that better? Can everybody hear me?
Perfect.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah. I'm a staff nurse. I look after adults with head injuries or spinal problems. And that's just one of the many areas that you can go into if you wanted to become a nurse. And there are lots and lots of different options. You could look after somebody with breathing problems, heart problems, hip and knee problems. Even with the current pandemic, you know, you could always look after somebody that's got COVID. There's a whole range, so it's not just one thing, and everyone and anyone can do it if they really want to. It is a challenging job, but it is also very, very rewarding, and I think that's the important thing to remember. And I just love it. I really, really love it. And I would love it if some of you guys had come and help join and fix the nursing workforce. As you probably know, that there's a big shortage of us. And I appreciate that nursing isn't for everybody. It's just sometimes you don't know these things until you try and find out. There are lots of different ways if you were interested in getting into nursing. There's lots of different college courses available. You will need to go to university and do a degree, which I was a diploma child, so I've got to work a little bit harder now and make sure I've got that extra qualification if I want to progress up the ladder. So on the slide in front of you, you've got a couple of pieces of equipment that we can use on a daily basis. Sometimes we don't use them at all. So on the left, we've got what we call an ECG machine. So we basically put stickers on our patients and look at the electrical activity in the heart. And we get some nice, pretty pictures and wiggles and squiggles on a piece of paper that we then have to pass to the doctors. And then on the right, that is what we call our arrest trolley. So if somebody is unconscious, not breathing, and their heart has stopped, that's got all that equipment in that we need to try and get the heart restarted again. If you can move on to the next slide for me. So these are a couple of pictures of myself. So on the left, I work at a place called Linden Lodge. And again, like I said earlier, that's what we do. We look after brain injury patients and sometimes post-COVID patients as well. So we basically help them get back onto their feet. So sometimes they're really poorly and we have to send them back over to the main part of our hospital. But most of the time, we get to see them walk out the door or at least be able to do more things for themselves. So we try and promote independence. There's so many chances, again, like I said, for you to develop your skills and your knowledge. Like I said, with different areas of nursing, you've got different levels of nursing as well. So I'm a band 5, we can go up and be managers, you can do specialist nursing. Anyone can do it, male, female, if you've got long-term condition like something like arthritis or asthma, mental health, anyone can do it. So come join us. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Hannah. And I can see that we've already had our first question in. So what made you decide to want to do your job, or how did you first find out or get into nursing?
So I kind of got a bit of a family background with healthcare, so I kind of got my interest from all of that. My dad was a first aider, and he used to encourage me to watch hospital programs on the telly with him, surgical programs. I had an auntie that was a deputy nurse looking after neonatal babies, and I just generally had a love for anatomy and physiology. So I realised that I wasn't quite good enough or clever enough to be a doctor, but the next best thing was a nurse. And actually, I found that I'm quite good nursing, and I really, really enjoy it. So my interests have stemmed from sort of like childhood through teenage years up until my current job now.
That's really great to hear about your passion and that it's existed for quite a long time as well. So next question would be for you. You talked about wanting young people to aspire to be nurses. What kind of skills do you think are important for them to be a nurse?
I think generally good people skills. So if you're quite a people person, if you're compassionate, caring, willing to work hard, prepared for a challenge, because not every day is the same. It might be a same routine, but things can happen outside of that routine. So patients can become poorly quite quickly, and obviously you're trained to deal with those kind of situations. So you kind of have to be prepared for anything that can arise.
I just didn't unmute myself then. Thank you, Hannah. So how do you cope when your job gets challenging or upsetting? And thank you for helping us throughout the pandemic. That's a lovely comment.
It's been pretty tough recently because of the pandemic, and so we're having to go to other areas to help support other nurses in areas that we are totally unfamiliar with. So just talking to each other, letting each other know that we're there, making each other a cup of tea, talking to our family when we get home, reflection. So that's something where we look back on situations that have gone well or not gone quite right, and we think, what did we do well? What could we do better? Excuse me. And it's been a pleasure to, be able to work throughout the pandemic and, do my bit to help make a difference to people's lives.
Thank you, Hannah. And a couple more questions. Why do you think there is a staffing shortage in nursing?
To be perfectly honest, I think the stress levels of the pandemic has probably partially contributed to that, and the fact that there's probably an issue with pay. I mean, you've probably heard about it all over the news. Lots of nurses and other people have been protesting to make pay a bit fairer, but it's not always about the pay. It's sometimes about the rewards that you get from seeing people get better, knowing you've made a difference, to their life. Which I can't tell you, there's no greater feeling than doing that.
Thank you, Hannah. And what can students listening now, do now to either learn more or to gain experience, or to learn more generally about nursing?
So we're talking about 16, sort of 17-year-olds, aren't we? So if you can have a look at what your trust has got available and maybe contact somebody in education, you might be able to do an apprenticeship from the age of 16. Or you can wait till you're 18. If you plan to go to university, you can go to university and learn that way, or you can become a healthcare assistant if you want to gain a bit more of experience and find out if maybe the world of nursing is for you or it isn't for you. I would, like I say, study hard, especially particularly with science, English and maths, and just make sure that you have fun as well as work hard, because it's got to balance. You don't want to make yourself poorly, and life isn't always about working, it's about having fun too. Work hard, play hard.
Thanks so much, Hannah. Okay, we're going to move on to our final volunteer, Yusuf, now, but thank you so much for sharing your passion for nursing. So Yusuf, over to you. Please tell us what it is that you do.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you for having me along to speak to you all this afternoon. Sorry, I'm taking phone calls. My own daughter, one of my daughters, is on her way home from school, so I'm trying to coordinate that as well. So I'm Yusuf. I'm an orthopedic and trauma surgeon in the city of Sunderland, although I'm speaking to you from an unusually glamorous and sunny Newcastle today, so nowhere as fancy as Prague. Could I have the next slide, please, Event? And the next one. So what I want to tell you about is how I came to be here. So Lara asked us to put a couple of slides together about how what our journey was, how we got to where we were. So this is the story of how I got from being bottom right in that left-hand picture to being the smooth, suave guy that I am on the right there. So if we could have the next slide, please, I'll try and tell you how. The one thing I would say is, and that it takes its twists and turns. And so next slide, please, Avanti. I always thought I wanted to study medicine. And then just come back again. I'm sorry. Thanks, Avanti. I fell in love with medicine. I actually fell in love with blood and gore around about age 6 or 7 when I was at primary school. And that's my primary school sign in the top left. And I went to a grammar school. I went to a grammar school in Yorkshire, which is where I'm from, which is in Batley, which is on the bottom left, which was in the newspapers not so long ago for something that wouldn't have happened when I was there, I suspect. But anyway, in the middle, in the top of the middle, when I sat my A-levels, so I sat my GCSEs and sat my A-levels, one thing that you may not ever hear a doctor tell you is that they didn't pass their A-levels. But that's what happened to me. So when I sat my A-levels, I actually didn't get the grades to get into medicine. And you may have come across UCAS, which is the University Clearing House, or is the University Applications House. I had actually had an offer to go and study something else, but my mum actually pulled me back into medicine because she knew exactly how much I wanted to study medicine. So she actually hid the envelope from me so I couldn't put it in the post box. And then she gave it back to me many years later. I still have that. So eventually, having resat my A-levels, which again is not something you ever hear many doctors tell you. I used to assume that doctors were super smart, but apparently you can not be terribly smart like I am and still get to medical school. But on the top right there is where I studied medicine. So I studied my local medical school. And on the bottom right that's me getting my degree. So there's a 5-year degree course that we do, and then we do a year of pre-registration work before you are registered as a full doctor. Next one, please, Avanti. And the thing about that is that time goes by. And if you give us the next slide again, please, Avanti. In the intervening time period between me becoming a doctor, which is in the last century, believe it or not, I've had a family. So they're my 3 daughters. They don't look like that anymore. The one on the top right is a teenager now. And I've moved house. I calculated it the other day when I was putting these slides together. I've moved house because of my job 14 times in the last 20-something years, including in the middle, moving to Australia, where I lived for a year. That was my back garden. That's the Pacific Ocean in Newcastle in New South Wales. And there are my children not being interested in the Sydney Opera House at all. And again, along the way, studying doesn't stop in a lot of specialities and a lot of work spheres, but in medicine, that's certainly the case. So we sit exams as we go through. So I've sat 2 sets of postgraduate exams. And if you could give me the last one, I think, Avanti. So today, this is what I do. So I work primarily with bones. I'm a bone surgeon, which is what an orthopedic surgeon is. And having started in the last century with my medical career, I finally ended up as a specialist in shoulder and elbow surgery. But I also do various broken bits as well. But worn out shoulders, worn out elbows, broken shoulders, broken elbows. That's what I do from day to day. And that's my story.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yusuf.
Well,
and really interesting to hear that you had a few bumps in the road on the way and have moved around and had lots of different jobs. So thank you for sharing your journey. So first question that's been sent in. So what A-levels did you take? And perhaps you could tell us about what subjects you think are important to get into your.
So when I was studying for my A-levels, I studied, what did I study? Biology, chemistry, and physics, and I also did general studies, and I did some S-levels as well. But medical admissions these days has moved on a little bit, that it's a little bit more accepting of non-scientific degrees as well. So I know I sit on the admissions panel for Newcastle and for Sunderland medical schools, and we're very, very keen on diversity in your A-levels. So high grades is what you need for sure. I don't think you can hide the fact that you need to be academically bright enough to get into medical school, but we don't limit you to just science. So I would say there's no strong focus on science, certainly at A-level, but when you're sitting your GCSEs and you're going through to A-levels, make sure you apply yourself. You know, if you really are keen on a career in medicine, there's no doubt that you do need to be academically reasonably bright to get through. So just keep your focus. That's probably the best advice I can give you.
Great, thank you, Yusuf. And what kind of similar question I asked Hannah really is what kind of extracurricular activities, or what can young people be doing now to to prepare themselves for their future if they're interested in the sector?
That's a great question. And in the old days, when I was trying to get into medical school, we used to organise our own work experience. We used to ring individual hospitals and ask them. But most hospitals, and certainly Sunderland Royal, where I work, will have an apprentice department now, which should organise work experience placements for you. So if you're keen, surgeons, physicians, all of our team, all of our consultant team would, I'm sure, be more than happy to have you watch us do some work. And if you come and you watch us and you're interested and you think, you know what, that is for me, that's a very, very good way of getting some exposure to medicine and surgery.
Great, thank you, Yusuf. And a question that's just come in the chat, would you say that your job needs a lot of flexibility, since you mentioned you've moved a lot?
Definitely. Flexibility, because it's a long journey. To be a consultant in medicine or surgery is quite a long journey. And so, as I mentioned, along the way, I've built up a family and a mortgage and various bits and pieces. So you definitely have to be flexible, particularly if, like my wife, who's in the family. So I also do on-call work as well, which means I can be out of the house at odd hours, which means I maybe can't pick up the children, for example. So you definitely need a lot of flexibility in that.
Thank you. And in terms of your role, what would you say are the most challenging aspects and what are the most rewarding aspects?
The challenging is easy. The challenging is that there aren't enough hours in the day. I'm sure Hannah and Raj will tell you exactly the same thing. If somebody could invent a 29-hour day, that would be perfect. That would mean I could do my job even better than I can try and do it now. See, Raj is saying no, but he really means it. And rewarding is working with people like Hannah. I can't do my job just by myself. I have to have people who are just as keen on doing what I do alongside me. Otherwise, I'm just a guy with a knife who's assaulting people in the street. Working as part of the team is by far and by a long, long way the best part of my job.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. Okay, I think we've got time for just a few reflections. So if we can just put the last slide up again, please, or the second to last slide, I think. So students, we'd love to know what you've learned from the session. So if you could comment in the chat and we can read them out, that would be really great. And volunteers, I know you've shared lots of bits of advice, but if there's one piece of advice that you can share with the students, what would it be? So let's go back to Raj.
I think from life experience now, so dare I say my age, not far away from 50, guys. So half a century's worth of experience says that you can make a mistake, right? You can all make a mistake in whatever we do in life, but don't make the same mistake twice. That's one boss that told me my first job after I graduated medical school. And every day is learning. And if you haven't learned something in a day, you really haven't done anything in that day. So this is the best bit of advice I could give, no matter what career path you want to take. And it's applicable for everything, not just your career. So really, probably the most important advice I could give.
Thank you, Raj. And Hannah, what about you? What advice would you give to your younger self?
Can you hear me? Yeah. So if anyone around you has doubt of your career choice, tell them, doubt me all you like, because I'm going to prove you wrong. So if there's something you really, really want to do, don't let anyone put you off. You will find ways and ways to get there. You've just got to find which way works for you.
Oh, Hannah, I love it. Thank you. And Yusuf, what would your piece of advice be?
I think I'd echo pretty much what Hannah said there. If you look back at the way that I've got into my job, I would have taken a turn because life had thrown some disappointments and challenges. But if you have those challenges, use the people that you love around you, take their support, and keep your focus. Because, to be absolutely honest, the world's your oyster. When you're your age, the world's your oyster. And if you really want to do it and you have the focus to do it, keep your eyes on the prize.
Amazing, thank you. So we're going to end the session there now. And then we've got a comment that's come in. I've learned that nursing and healthcare work might be one of the most challenging experiences, but will always be worth it. And that's a really lovely learning. So thank you for sharing such an informative and interesting session as well. Thank you. Brilliant. So we'll end the session there. Avanti, if you could move to the next slide. Oh, and Avanti, you've shared the student survey. Students, would be really great to get your feedback. So if you do have a couple of minutes to fill that out, that would be great. And you can also go to the iCould website, where there are hundreds of career videos, and you can learn more about different jobs, and you can filter by subject as well. And you can take the Buzz quiz, which is a personality quiz, and you can learn more about yourself. Next week, our theme will be beauty therapy. So we'll have a couple of volunteers from that industry. But thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and special thank you to our 3 amazing volunteers. So bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good luck, everybody.